What's up, everybody? Back, new episode. Time for Tell Me You're Joking. I have a feeling today we're going to be popping all over the map. Primarily staying here in the flyover country mindset landscape. Loading into the show here. Tunes from my guest for today. Go check it out on Spotify. Selfless, shameless plug there for the guys.
Appreciate it.
There you go, Mr. Truman Kennedy. How's it going, man?
Going great. Good to be here.
So, truth be told, put a little frame this conversation. Kyle Juvers.
Mm-hmm.
Good friend. He's become a very good friend over the years. I met him through the whole Better Together.
Okay.
And when I popped this off, he was familiar with the first iteration from back in the Gaslight days, where it was more video-based. So, I mean, that's going to confuse you, because I'm looking at your Spotify profile pic, and I'm like, dude, I've drank with that guy before. And now I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. Anyway, Kyle was the one that was like, hey, I got a guy that I think you would enjoy talk. Politics / pop / all the in-betweens. Missouri kid, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You are we talking 314? Are we talking 636? Or are we outside of that bubble?
573. Almost Arkansas, down in Poplar Bluff. It's where I was born and raised, and grew up between there and a family farm a little bit north of there in Lowndes, Missouri, which everyone...
Is that Lounds?
No, WNDES.
Yeah, that.
A lot of people said Lowndes, which is completely wrong. Don't say that.
Including the people from there.
They know how to say it. all 20 of them.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that half of the room.
Yeah.
So you grew up down southern Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Why and when St. Louis?
Pretty recent. After high school, I went to Mizzou. I lived in Columbia for the better part of 7 or 8 years, and then ended up going to grad school at the Clinton School of Public Service down in Little Rock, and lived in Arkansas for about 7 or 8 years, and then ended up moving back to the farm during the pandemic. We headed for the hills, my wife and I, and successfully avoided people. After the pandemic, ended up moving up to St. Louis. The first time I lived in St. Louis proper, visited a whole lot growing up, and when I lived in Columbia, visiting friends over here from Mizzou and stuff like that. So familiar with the city, but yeah, since the end of 22, the first time living here. And,
so the Columbia educational experience, I'm assuming an undergrad in political science. Am I close?
Sociology is the official one, minor in political science.
So you wanted to be a bartender like me?
Sure. I worked the door at the Blue Fugue.
Okay.
If anyone remembers that from back in the day, it's no longer. But never graduated to behind the bar. But I think the statute of limitations was over. I wasn't old enough to actually be working in the bar anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I often bring up those years for my my own personal experience, because I degree in political science and economics, and first real job out of college was bartender.
Yeah, sure.
And it's one of those things. Yeah, when you're in quote politics, or you're considering political science, that's not law school track.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's about networking.
Sure.
Of course you got to learn policy, and of course you got to be kind of versed in how things work, right?
Uh-huh.
But if you're not meeting people, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I guess the first kind of use of my degree is the 2010. I was graduating around 2010, and so I worked for the census as an enumerator. And then the next year, I was appointed by Governor Nixon to the State House Redistricting Committee. And so I got to use that data that I helped collect and redraw on the state house lines.
So that's Missouri. What were you
Your
doing
state
down?
Reps, yeah.
Yeah. What were you doing down in Arkansas?
In Arkansas, I got a master's degree in public service from the Clinton School. which is a real interesting program. It's kind of like public policy, but more hands-on approach to things. So you're working with one of your projects the first year with a small group is with a local Central Arkansas nonprofit. And the program's changed a little bit since I left. It's about 10 years ago since I graduated, but it's you would do an international project over the summer in between years, and then you would come back and do a capstone. And you could do that with any other organization, domestically or abroad. And so I ended up working with, for both my international project and my capstone, with Hope North, which is a school for former child soldiers, refugees, orphans, kind of in the wake of the, remember Coney 2012, that viral sensation?
Yes.
That was, so northern Uganda was dealing with the aftermath of that civil war. And so those kids were coming out of that civil war. And so working really on the administration side, mostly helping the school and the nonprofit infrastructure that supports it and raises money for it around the world.
So did you have an early kind of emphasis or focus, so to speak, on kind of the human element of policy? You know, because what you're describing is more, quote, helping fellow man, as opposed to writing tax code or, you know what I'm saying, or civic development. What was the focus and why, basically?
Yeah, it was definitely less of an academic theoretical approach, speaking of poli-sci and that sort of thing. And definitely getting into it, it was during, while I was at Mizzou, I was the head of the Mizzou College Democrats and was working on campaigns pretty much the entire time I was in school at the same time.
So let me ask you about that then specifically. Poplar Bluff, Missouri, or Southern Missouri in general, or we're talking a 9-to-1 ratio of red to blue.
Sure.
For the most part.
Pretty much.
Did you grow up in an outlying house, or was it a conservative house and you went left independently?
It was, I think I kind of led my family in some ways to the left a little bit. We didn't really talk about politics much growing up. We did go to a Baptist church. I would describe that church as Baptist light. It wasn't the most conservative Baptist church in town, if you can imagine what that might look like. But around, and I thought I was a Republican. I still hunt. We have guns. Like some of those cultural markers are still there in my upbringing. I love to sing. I throw in some gospel tunes still when I'm playing out in bars and everything else now here too.
Yeah. So did Willie.
Yeah. Exactly. Willie, Leon Russell, Ry Cooder. Some of those some of my big influences there. But but it was around the Iraq War, the start of the Iraq War, when Bush was saying we're going to go look for these weapons of mass destruction and that'll be our justification to go to war. Well, they never found them. They never let the investigators, the inspectors, finish their job. And so that's when things started to click for me, and I started to turn left, kind of through a libertarian route at first, and like opposing things like the
Patriot Act.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So Labor Day weekend 2004, George Bush holds his largest rally of his campaign in that cycle in my hometown in Poplar Bluff.
Yeah.
20,000 people show up in a town of 16,000 to greet the president. And I'm there with a handful of protesters holding a sign that said something about the Patriot Act.
Well, if my math's right, kind of picking up on the nuances of what you've already talked about, you were a teenager at the time. Did you have a buddy that was politically active, or did you just kind of gravitate towards it?
The week after that, I started a Young Democrats Club at my high school the week after George Bush shows up. And it was a very popular move. I did find, it was basically about finding community and finding those friends who definitely didn't identify with the majority. I'd say the majority in high school is probably apathetic or, just doesn't have a clue. But, there's overwhelming conservative vibe at that time. Butler County was like 65% Republican back then. Now it's like 85% Republican. So it's definitely gone a lot more hard right.
Well, don't you think though a lot of these rural areas where you do see the math and the numbers, because everybody projects out, based upon vote count, it's 65-35 or 65-32 with 3 indies, right? But the reality is that the number is probably, if the vote count, for example, in Missouri, I believe the last election was like 56% of the vote went to Trump.
Sounds about right.
But if we look in the rural counties, the percentage didn't go up much, compared to the statewide. However, I think there's a larger percentage of people in rural America that just simply don't vote because they know you don't need my vote. So, that number has to be higher.
Necessarily. I think, and I've seen this in some data, when I was working in Arkansas and Missouri, and some of these states kind of in the heartland of America from, Appalachia down to like Oklahoma, this area has turned harder red than the rest of the country in the Trump era. And so there were about 5 to 10% of people in these rural counties who just never vote, who were activated by Trump to come out because they heard his, paleo-conservative nationalist rhetoric that spoke to them for the first time. I remember hearing a lot of similar rhetoric like that too, like great replacement theory and stuff like that, going on 20 years ago.
Well, let me ask you, as a kid of rural red Mo, what would you say was really kind of maybe the a triggering item or policy or message outside of the traditional, we're going to cut your taxes and we're going to protect your guns, and and even though he wishy-washed, but he was basically like overturn Roe and pro-life and all these other things, but we've heard that for generations, and we haven't seen the +1 or the +2 that we've seen in traditionally red markets that we've seen with Trump. What was the X factor? Was it brown people? Was it anti-Europeans or whatever?
Well, I think we're in a. I think Democrats have been in denial about the populist moment that we're in, going back to the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street. That's the genesis of this most recent populist uprising. And you had, with those two examples in 2010 and 2011, you have the seeds of this populist movement growing up on both sides of the aisle. And but since 2012, the Democrats have run away from that. They've run away from the overriding sentiment of the American voting populace right now. Because I knew people in 2015 who are real backwoods, salt of the earth, blue collar, hardworking people who have sweated for every dollar that they've made. But they hold some really some views that I don't really want to repeat on a recorded medium. But at the same time that they were looking at voting for Bernie because they identified with him. It was between Bernie and Trump for them. If it would have been a hard decision.
Well, for me, like my 2 cents along the lines of what you're describing, I don't think they did it on purpose, but I do believe that the Republican Party, via MAGA, via Trump in particular, they stumbled upon the real battle, that being not ideological left-right or conservative liberal. They figured out a way, and again, I think they stumbled into it, is it's really an economic argument, north-south.
Every time. And that's Obama was able to do that in 2012 to, say, oh, look at this millionaire Mitt Romney. We're with working people. We're not with the millionaire class and the tax breaks that he wants to go with. But Trump flips that script. He's like, I'm a billionaire. I have more money than Mitt Romney, but I'm with the working people unabashedly, and I'm going to, I'm going to punch it in every direction, left and right and up.
So let's go back to 2015, 16 sure. Then, because I'd love to kind of get your take as, because you're young and viral or
I'm an elder millennial. I don't
yeah. But you're really chomping at the bit during those years. 15, 16, when he came down that escalator, for me personally, again, I joke about being I said it earlier, right of left of center, right? After about 30 days, I knew.
Yeah.
I'm like, this dude's going to win.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, it didn't have anything to do with his je ne sais quoi. There was no polarity for me when it came to how he spoke, what he spoke about, et cetera. I was more concerned with what the Democrats were rolling out, specifically in the form of Hillary Clinton, because the excitement over anti, he benefited from that.
Yeah.
And all of the paid consultants on the left, like, how did a whole swath of institutional people miss that?
It's pretty easy. I mean, to see that train wreck coming from, being somewhat on the inside, I would say, especially being in Arkansas in 2016 and knowing people who had known the Clintons for decades, back when they got started in the 70s in Arkansas.
Right.
You can, there's definitely a difference there. And
now, in fairness, she did win the popular vote. So it's not as if the Democratic base wasn't present.
Yeah.
Because to a degree, it did its job.
Yeah.
But what they missed was the edges.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, I'm not one that prescribes to like the DNC was rigged or anything. There's rules there. There's ways to play the game.
Were you a Bernie guy?
In 16, I was like in between. I was just like, listen up, Hillary's going to lose. Bernie's got some good ideas. Can we meet in the middle somewhere?
I voted for Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
So.
There you go.
Being in Missouri, I'm like, because we all knew our numbers.
Right.
We knew what was going to happen here.
It was surprising to see how far Bernie was able to take it. I mean, I think it helped that it was basically a two-person race. Whereas Trump, had it been more spread out, had there been some more top-tier contenders in that race, that would have maybe eaten into Clinton's base of popularity. That would have been, I think you would have seen a dynamic play out that was like the GOP primary in 2015 and 2016, where Trump is able to have a solid third of the vote for much of the early contest and everything. But with the way the system was worked out in the Republican primary, is that those states are winner take all. So he can win a state with 35% of the vote and get all of those delegates. And so it became much harder as that field narrowed down, and got to a 2-3 person race with Ted Cruz and John Kasich. It was much harder for kind of the mainstream to take back control of the race from Trump at that point, because he was just stocking up delegates. Whereas the Democratic side is proportional; it's a little more fair. You've got the votes are nice, but at the end of the day, we're voting for a slate of delegates to go to the convention for those people to nominate the president. So there's never any, kind of with the Electoral College, there isn't ever a direct vote for president in our country.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And so...
Well, that's where all the nerds on the uber far right will be like, we're a constitutional republic. We're not a... Okay, so so don't vote.
Congress is different, but, it's... But,
No, but I think for me, the takeaway back then, and, I'd love to get your opinion, because obviously you were super active at the time in this as well. Not only did I feel like the Democrats were not listening to what was going on in the marketplace, and again, I'm not going to make this about... Trump had no message.
Sure.
He was just not them. and pretty good at lying.
Did they have a platform in 16?
There was
Did they
no
bring
platform.
it back or they get rid of it in 20? Is that when they got rid of it?
No, I
It was
don't
just
think
like
there was ever
the whole
like,
platform is
I think
own the libs.
yeah,
There is no
lock her up.
Yeah, there is no the few Republican friends that I still have, and I wish I had more Republican friends, but they were they became never Trumpers really early on because they're good principled people who understand what the values and the concepts and the liberties that our country is built upon, and want to preserve those things because what we're seeing right now with ICE is Americans getting deported every day, due process being run over like a bulldozer.
So much of that is also, again, it's the power of messaging.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We can get into this in a little bit, but at the end of the day, what I think they did right, starting in 15-16 with that first election, is they allowed the news cycle to be their friend, and they managed the attention. They knew that everything was going to be short cycled. They did not need macro policy.
Mm-hmm.
They just had to be sure to not be institutional, or at least appear that way.
Mm-hmm.
So let's along those lines, we then go through T 1.0. Long comes COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a disaster for a multitude of reasons. 1 million people dead. And for those of you listening, like, ooh, that was miscategorized. Okay, fine. So let's say half of them were due to COVID. That's 500,000 people dead.
I mean, I'd say they're undercounted probably.
Yeah. So whatever it is, at the end of the day, when you have historically the flu on an annual basis doesn't kill more than 20,000 people.
Sure.
And you jump up to those numbers.
Right.
Well, that's not the flu.
Yeah. Back during when it was started, some people were saying like, this is like, comparing it to like Vietnam or World War II and the casualties coming back, saying like, oh, it's not as bad as that. I'm like, well, let's do the math on that. This is actually worse than any war that we've been in for the rate of casualties that we're having.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 400 to 500 9/11s.
Yeah, sure.
Here's where I'm going with this, though. You had the normal chaos that was his cabinet, that was just everything that was going on, just his language, the way that we became kind of a novelty globally. The economy, he passes the tax cuts, fractions of benefits to those that are sub 150K, right? And there's chart after chart, statistic after statistic that proves this all out. But again, people don't vote based on statistics; they vote on their feelings.
Oh, yeah.
So all this is going on. COVID comes, he botches that whole thing. It's fake. It's whatever. Inject bleach, do all this shit. Yet, credit where credit is due. Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah.
They knock it out.
Yeah.
He
somewhere along the line, I don't know if it was his doing or some of the people on the right just like continuing to foment this anti-government fervor. He's like, oh, I've got to get where my base is. And so while he's doing the right thing, because, at the end of the day, he wants to save his ass too and make sure he has a vaccine and all of that because he believes in vaccines. He believes in the medicine. He got the best care you could get when he got COVID.
Yeah, the mRNA.
So, he had to get where his base was, and I think if it would have been interesting to see if he would have, the idea of Trump sticking to his guns on anything. We're in the taco moment right now, but anyway,
right.
If he would have stuck to his guns on, and been halfway decent at managing COVID, he would have been reelected in 2020. Absolutely, I believe that.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if he would have lost some of his base because he was still pro-vaccine, but he still talks out both sides of his mouth all the time, so that people can always hear what they want to hear.
Well, this is kind of my point. This is what I'm getting at. We talked about 15-16, how the DNC and the powers that be, they weren't paying attention to what was really resonating. Fast forward through Trump 1.0, you do have COVID, which again, without COVID, you're right. I agree with you. I think he's reelected, justifiably or not, doesn't matter. There was growing angst to get against him, but he also brought politics into the front room in most households, so people who are more politically engaged. And yet the DNC, the second time around facing him,
in 20.
They still don't get it. They win, but they only win because, again, you've got 1 million people that just died or are dying.
Right.
We're staring at 9% inflation. It's chaos.
Yeah. Inflation hadn't quite started yet, but
true. Yeah. But everything was shut down. Okay, so when we go to zero, why was gas under $2 a gallon? Well, guess what, motherfuckers? Nobody's driving.
Supply and demand.
There's no planes in the air.
Right.
Right? That's why. They didn't react. They didn't do anything. They just saw it as, we're not him.
Yeah.
And that was not a campaign.
Yeah.
That was a path of least resistance that inspired nobody.
Yeah. And it's a very common, negative partisanship is a very common tactic that's been around for a while, but you definitely have to put something forward too, and give people something to vote for as well. It's culture and it's policy at the same time.
So Biden wins. Pete takes Iowa. A couple days later, Biden takes the whole Southeast or whatever it was.
Sure.
The rest is history. Goes on, gets his 80 million votes or whatever. But he was supposed to be the speed bump, and he accomplished his goal.
Yeah.
We all know, we can go the tail of the tape. It was one and done. So when 2022 and the midterms come around, and Biden doesn't make way for a true primary,
right?
Because I know you're nerding out on this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know how I felt. I'm like, this is not good.
I'm like, let's start the primary in December of 22. All right, the midterm's over. It's time to open it up and look for the successor that he promised, to be a gateway to the future, or whatever he said. It's pretty explicit. Some people tried to walk that back and say, well, he didn't say he was going to be one term, but it's like, he pretty explicitly said he was going to be one term because we were all concerned about his age, and again continued to ignore the concerns about his age. Again, and the first 2 years of his presidency, I was very surprised about the amount he was able to get accomplished. I think he made a deal with Elizabeth Warren to get her to drop out and endorse him, and basically Warren was able to put her platform into legislative action in the first couple of years of his, and also through appointments into the federal government and people who would, at the Consumer Protection Bureau and things like that, who would be on to carry out a more progressive, people-focused agenda. So I was very impressed by what he's able to do in the first 2 years. But then after that, he had that really good State of the Union in 23, and then it was just a sharp downhill decline after that. And it was just too bad it finally crystallized in the debate in June of last year, and there were still people in denial. But it was interesting to see that so many establishment Democrats that I knew came out after that debate and was just like, this has got to end. And it's just a shame it took a month for him to finally realize that too.
So everybody knows the results. You have a lame duck, in my opinion, a lame duck candidate in Kamala, because there was no way at that point with the fuel that was fed to the fire, thanks to Biden. And
it was. I mean, they were in denial. Here, if you want some, you want a clip, you want a headline, I'll give it to you. Anyone who was involved in Biden's campaign at the DNC level or at his personal campaign level after 2023 should be run out of the party. Because David Plouffe got in there when Kamala took over, and he looked at their polling, before the switch, and it was just going to be a rout. the swing states weren't even close. They were getting into, like I said, like Minnesota, Virginia, Maine, New Hampshire, some of these, New Mexico, some of these states that are, they're not solid blue, but like very reliably blue. Those were all going down, not just the swing states. Like it was going to be a bloodbath. And these people knew it, and they kept going. And I'm sure they saw it from back in 23, but they told Biden what he wanted to hear and that he could keep.
Well, they're also in the weeds. They knew how bad of a candidate, well, I shouldn't say as a candidate. They knew how bad of a human Trump was at the time.
Yeah.
And they let that cloud their vision when it came to strategically addressing.
Which is why they should have opened it up and let the best candidate come forward. If Biden was truly the best candidate, he should be able to survive a primary, no problem, right? But they pushed everyone out. They kept everyone out of the field. They didn't open it up to a discussion, to a primary, and the rest is history.
Yep. So here now, moving forward, one of the other, well, if we look backwards just a little bit, over the past 8 years in particular, when you think about the Democratic Party as an institution and, try to envision the hierarchy, yes, Joe Biden was president, so theoretically he's the leader of the party, but I don't think anybody ever really believed that from a functional standpoint. Whereas on the right, hands down, it's Trump. It is Trump's party.
Sure.
It is his whim. It is his,
his tweet.
Exactly.
His truth.
His truth. So let me ask you, sitting here in July of 25, who's the leader of the Democratic Party?
Always a great question, even when we have Democrats in office. There's a lot of, I'm all for the process and letting people emerge. And I think, if we take our thumb off the scale, if we're open to ideas, I think this midterm will be a real test to see who emerges from this cycle. I think we're getting into it there. Looking back just 6 months ago in January, like we were rudderless. We were absolutely lost. But I think the Democratic Party is regaining its footing. We're organizing
through who?
again.
Let me push back a little bit.
Yeah.
Through who?
It helps to, again, getting back to negative partisanship, it helps to have someone who is so extremely radical in office that there's a reaction to that. And so it helps to start to organize around that. So you have the energy, you have the momentum, and then it's incumbent on people to step up and actually lead at that point.
I would agree that thanks to Trump and this cabinet, and frankly, the House and Senate that he has right now, the way in which they're governing, the way in which they're approaching policy, the way in which they just do fucking press conferences makes it super easy to build and grow a base of opposition. That is not a product of Democratic strategy. That is a byproduct of MAGA being MAGA.
Yeah. And it's like we're talking about primarying Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer right now.
Yeah. Which I'm fine with.
Yeah,
to a degree. I'm like, I get it. And I like Hakeem Jeffries. But when you listen to him, is he smart? Yes. Is he accurate? Yes. Is he kind of in tune with the fundamental populist needs of his district to New York to America, scaling out? Yeah, he gets it. But is he inspiring? No. Is he scary? No. Is he, I always think back to, growing up as a St. Louis Blues fan as a kid in the 80s and 90s, playing the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings had Bobby Probert, baddest mofo in all of hockey. Then as he got traded to the Blackhawks and, a couple other teams, there was a joke in the league where everybody's like, God, he's a fucking bitch, right? But unless he was your bitch.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
The Democratic Party doesn't have. We don't have that guy.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have that girl. We don't have anybody that is like that's scary. Because as much as Bernie is relevant, I mean, frankly, the Republican Party should thank Bernie because all of Bernie's narratives have slid into their populist messaging.
Yeah, because the Democratic Party refuses to be populist at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they have big, like I said before, we've been ceded this entire moment to the GOP this whole time, and these people who, you know, the rural Missouri going from 65% red to 85% red, we could have stopped that. We could have stemmed that a little bit and still been, you know, a purple state where in 2016 we have statewide candidates who get pretty dang close to winning U.S. Senate and governor.
Yeah, I think I think state that's a whole other episode where you start to really break down the difference between the ability to win on a state level versus the ability to win on a national level. Let's play a little game.
But you still have to there's still the overall national tide. You know, all politics is national now. It's not local anymore, and it hasn't been for a long time.
Yeah, but the ability to win races. There's a significant difference between state level races and federal races. Case in point, let's play a little game. I'm going to name names, and you know, let's assume that the baton is passed, you know, sequentially from Trump to Vance in 28. Okay, so I'm going to name names. Vance is the opponent, assuming MAGA doesn't create true nuclear war or anything.
Suspend the elections.
Yeah. Let's assume the election is tomorrow.
Sure.
First name I'm going to name is going to kind of maybe prove my point or what I'm thinking when it comes to state versus federal. Colin Allred.
You know, he made a run in Texas, came up short. Texas is still a tough nut to crack. It's a whole lot of people. It takes a ton of money. It takes a ton of infrastructure. And I think it's getting close, but that's with the Hispanic demographics that were leaning towards Democrats in the Obama era have shifted back toward the Republicans now in the Trump era. So that kind of takes it off the table. I think, you know,
but simplistically, do you think he could go mano a mano with a J.D. Vance on a presidential ticket?
I mean, I think anyone can wipe the floor with J.D. Vance. He's just a whiny little boy.
But that's a whole other issue.
He just gets so indignant. He's so upset. How dare you? How dare you? That's always. I mean, the right wing grievance is their whole thing now too. But
like his tweet today. Why are you opposed to? Why are you trying to protect a weed farm? Those are strawberries.
Yeah.
You jackass. Shapiro.
Yeah, he's pretty good. You know, winning big in Pennsylvania. It's
Bashir.
It's good. Bashir's pretty good as well. I mean, like I said, I'm open to all these. I don't have a horse in the race yet. Well, I want to see them come out and be a leader. You know, if you're looking for a leader,
that's my point.
We have a bench. We had a bench, you know, last year in 24, and you would have seen more of these names come forward if Biden would have actually, you know, not been, you know, his hubris, let that rule everything, and step back and actually let people run.
Who on the bench do you think would have beat Trump?
I think, I mean, Trump versus Biden was the best chance for both of them. I think you take one of them away in any other circumstance, and they would have lost big, and especially, you know, that's what I was saying 2 years ago. Especially as Biden further declined, you know, it was very evident that anyone could have beat Biden.
Well, I'll give you the top three on the R side. Obviously, Trump. DeSantis was supposed to be the not Trumper.
Sure.
But Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody on the bench for the Democrats coming out of Biden era, I don't think any of them beat Nikki Haley.
I mean, she didn't. I don't think the Republicans even like Nikki Haley that much. So,
but here's the reality of where I'll give Republican base more credit than Democratic base is they still vote. The Democratic base, for example, if somebody isn't, pro-Palestine enough or isn't, pro-XYZ enough, well, I'm not voting, right? Because the other side, they're even worse towards said cause that you have. Republicans, they are always going to, guns and their Bible, they're going to vote, right? So
there could still be an enthusiasm gap on the right, and you saw that in like 2018 when turnout dropped, and so but as far as Palestine and some of these people on the left withholding their votes, I don't blame them, honestly, at the end of the day, because the Democratic Party continues to punch left and refuses to acknowledge the political moment that we're in. As I keep saying.
But by not voting ensured Trump's victory.
Yeah.
And in a binary world, second place means nothing.
I know.
So participating in accelerating the victory for the side that is worse than your own side is that's self-mutilation.
Yeah, it's definitely not reducing self-harm. At the same time, I don't know what the hell is going to wake up some of the people in the Democratic Party to actually.
Let's talk about one of those things, Mondavi.
Yeah.
Let's talk about New York along these lines.
Mamdani, yeah.
Thank you. When he won that primary, now you know what? Look, let's be honest with ourselves. That was one of the worst primaries you could imagine based on quality of cast. Cuomo et al. Like it was, you had shittier option.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, you had St. Louis County boy Brad Lander, New York City comptroller in there, with a credible, competent choice.
2 of the 4 had federal charges for bribery and corruption, convicted and pardoned in exchange for. So 50% of your race.
Which one? I mean, there's a lot more than 4 candidates in the Democratic primary.
For New York City?
Yeah.
The 4 that matter. The only 4 that were polling.
So the top 4, there were really 3 that got, I think the 4th place was just under 5%.
It was not a good lineup.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy to kind of work through. But to the point, his campaign, because I started following it in February, because I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah. He came from 1% to winning it all.
And what he talked about was economics, and economics. That, to me, seems to be, forget about whatever his past is.
Yeah.
That's your roadmap. Because it resonates. And when you think about the national contenders coming up, who's talking that language, in your opinion?
Yeah.
Or do you think anybody is?
I mean, I really admire Mamdani and what he was able to do there, and the movement he created. I don't know if that.
No, I'm thinking Mondavi. Where did I get that? That's cheap wine.
Oh yeah, right.
I was wondering, why am I craving a Cabernet out of a box?
Yeah, no, and I think there's lessons to be drawn from that. I don't know if there's you don't want to take a 1-to-1 policy platform and apply it all across the country. You don't want to do that, but you do want to get back to the kitchen table issues and what's going to make a tangible market difference in people's everyday lives. Can they see those benefits coming to them every day? Not just a tax credit. Oh my God, I'm so tired of tax credits. Like, they don't help people and they don't see it at all.
Well, in order for tax credits to make sense, you have to build equity, because credits and everything else only matter when you have equity that takes you to upper clips.
Yeah, we can put money directly into people's bank accounts. We can do that on a monthly basis, and we need to make sure that people see those benefits and take some of the red tape away that just puts up obstacles between.
Did you read Abundance? Have you read Abundance?
I've not read Abundance. I've listened to Klein on a few podcasts and stuff like that. But
So I just finished it on my trip to Mexico. Must read, absolute must read. Actually, that's one of the things I was going to bring up to you. We're going to take a quick break.
Sure.
When we come back, what I'd like to talk about is a little bit of abundance, a little bit of strategy, et cetera. But I really want to get into St. Louis as well and some of the tectonic shifts that are occurring here. As maybe a little bit of a litmus test for kind of the broader conversation that we're having as far as what's going to work, right? And get into maybe the healthcare system, since you were on the phone all day with probably an underwriter or billing, something like that.
Billing.
Going to get you fired up.
Yeah.
All right, Truman Kennedy, go check him out on Spotify as well. Spelled like it sounds, Truman Kennedy, like the Presidentes. When we come back, more St. Louis politics and beyond. Thanks for listening. Like, review, follow, share. Be right back.
It's all gonna be okay. At least that's what I
All right, rolling back in here.
Rolling in with the timpani on that one.
What's that?
That track includes some timpani. So
Timpani.
It's rolling back there. You can hear it. It's in the mix.
The only, I'll be honest, I was just drawn to the title.
It's
Feels like my,
Capri Sun and gin, yeah.
Feels like my childhood youth soccer sponsor and my parents. Yeah, it wasn't my parents' favorite drink. That would have sounded good if it was, but it's
Well, it's about a mom who doesn't have a mixer for gin and uses her kid's Capri Sun.
why wouldn't you? Self-contained units. You just got to get that syringe just right.
Sure.
Pop it right in there. Honky Tonk down there on Broadway. Ryan and JB, those guys.
Yeah.
They in their fridge, little beer fridge, they got a whole stack loaded Capri Suns.
Thanks. Well, I need to get in there.
Go check it out, man. We're back. A little Tell Me You're Joking. We're talking all things. We're getting in the weeds of politics today. It's been a minute. Been all over the board lately, to be honest. Truman Kennedy, Southern Missouri, Poplar Bluff, MSA. Does Poplar Bluff have an MSA? Or is that just an easy way of saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the Poplar Bluff Chamber like counts like a 7-county area there. It's kind of like, what's the distance between Walmarts down there?
Yeah.
You got like West Plains, Pocahontas. I think, do they have a Walmart? Maybe it might be Paragould. And then up to like Fredericktown, and then over to, I think Dexter has a Walmart. So, but I think Dexter's still in our MSA.
Sounds like a booming metropolis.
Oh yeah, well, Poplar Bluff is one of the few rural Missouri counties that's actually growing in population. Everything else is like double-digit losses around there.
Yeah. Do you follow? You're on LinkedIn, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
A little bit. Not enough.
I have a profile.
Ness. Do you know Ness Sandoval?
I do not.
You should follow him. You would like him. He's SLU University professor, statistician, straight up numbers guy. Basically, what he really, really tracks is population trends, and you read his shit specifically as it applies to our backyard, and you're like, oh my God, this is like Armageddon.
Yeah.
We're losing. The few plus ones, right? Like you're just referencing for every Poplar Bluff that's picking up 10 people, for simple math, you've got 10 other counties that are all losing 10. So one of each of those is coming to Poplar Bluff, and we are net negative across the board. And
Poplar Bluff has a hospital, has community college. Those two things are the big drivers. Otherwise, it's mostly retail. We're continually, losing more and more factory jobs as the years go by. But yeah.
So, I mean, that's a good point to make. Kind of looking at everything that's going on now nationally with this particular administration. They just recently passed the quote big beautiful bill, and you know, I talk.
Jason Smith, the congressman for the 8th district down in South Missouri, had a lot to do with it. He's so proud. He's so proud.
Okay. So you sidebarred me here for a second. Here's my Jason. No, in a good way.
Okay.
Here's my Jason Smith take.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the U.S. economy is what is it, $26 trillion or whatever? It's some insane number.
Yeah.
Okay. And Congress, to a degree, is an amalgamation of all these individuals are basically the CEO of the largest business in the world, which is the U.S. economy. And when you look at the House of Representatives and Ways and Means, in which they're the ones responsible for, getting the budget bills structured and out of committee and moving down the line, theoretically, that's arguably one of the most important committees in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in true DC style, we have the chairman of that committee, Mr. Jason Smith, who hails from Missouri 8, which is, I believe, the 8 out of 8 in poverty, in life expectancy.
Any category you want.
Yeah, you choose it. It is the shittiest.
Possibly most cattle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be most cattle.
And puppy mills.
Yeah.
It is awful. It is awfully ran by an individual, Jason Smith.
Yeah.
And because of his success at the local level, our federal government decides, you know what? We got a big business here. That guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, does that, you're from down there. And clearly you got your finger on the pulse. When you just look at the simplicity and the reality of that truth, how the fuck do Democrats ever lose a race with inept decisions like that?
As far as lose a race to Jason Smith or...
Yes.
Or,
and then whatever your next question is, yes.
Yeah, I mean, just to point out some of the hypocrisies or ironies, with Jason Smith, like this thing is going to kick so many 260,000 Missourians off their Medicaid, and it's going to that's going to disproportionately hurt the people in his district, the voters in his district. Tons of people on Medicaid down there. The hospital in Poplar Bluff needs those Medicaid dollars to stay operating. And,
Yeah. So here's where I am on all that. The Democrats have proven that no amount of quote educating, no amount of quote politicking,
Sure.
no amount of
stats don't matter. It's
anything
Yeah.
is going to change minds. What will change minds? Pain and suffering.
Yeah.
So to a degree, and this is going to sound awful, but I think honestly, stay out of the way. Democrats should stay out of the way.
So getting back to like the accelerationists,
Allow the pain and suffering to permeate.
if we're there to organize, there's been a couple things that happened in the 8th district that, because the Democratic Party has failed to organize and create infrastructure outside of urban areas and suburbs. Like we've lost 2 really big opportunities in Southeast Missouri in the last couple of years to organize around.
What do you think of Randy McCallum?
She's really nice. She's bless her heart. She's working hard down there and doing the best she can. But it's an uphill battle. Like I said, there's been just an abdication of party infrastructure. Like we used to have the minority leader in the state house when I was starting out 20 years ago was from Eminence, Missouri. We had Democrat there. We had Iron County voted for Obama by 8 votes. You had 3 state reps out of the boot heel who were Democrats. It's all gone. It's not there anymore. So getting back to those opportunities I was talking about, those Tyson closed down 2 chicken plants in Missouri a couple years ago. One in Neosho, or in the Neosho area in Southwest, and the other one was in Dexter. So Dexter's a town of 10,000 people. There were like 900 jobs at this chicken processing plant. And Tyson was in the middle of negotiating an overhaul of Dexter's city water system because they use a ton of water to do all the processing, and those small towns need every dollar they can get to keep their infrastructure up and running. So they left them high and dry. 10% of the town is without a job. And then the after effects of that, the chicken farmers in the area, all their contracts, they just ripped them up. They weren't going to honor them. They didn't have a buyer for all the chickens they were producing.
Yeah, Missouri's track record on managing farmland. Clearly, there's that issue. The other one was thanks to former state senator, now U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt. During his time, they were the ones that signed the legislation to allow Chinese nationals to literally buy our pork farms.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah, it's disturbing, and it's again you had in the aftermath, the same month that Tyson shut down those plants, they gave Jason Smith a big check, the same month. And since then you have this guy Russ Oliver, the former prosecuting attorney for Stoddard County. He's now in private practice, but he took up all of the. He's a Republican. Took up all of the. Filed a lawsuit on behalf of all the chicken farmers down there, and to get Tyson to honor their contracts. And the language he was putting out is sounds like Bernie going against these big corporations who are destroying the lives of these local chicken farmers, these local plant workers who are trying to eke out a living, cutting up chickens every day. It's not fun. And then the other big story, again, there's no. I've known Lucas Kuntz for a long time. When that happened, I sent it to him, and he did a little social media on that to try, and he went down to the Booty Hole a lot. And I can commend him for getting out there in rural Missouri and really trying to talk to folks again, because that's what it's going to take for a Democrat to win, to break through those things. But
the playbook's right in front of you. Walk into poor districts, show them how you're going to improve their bottom line. That's it. That's all. You don't. The disadvantaged reality that they are experiencing is not about books in their library or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's purely paying bills. Yeah, access. They have no access.
But they've got to start. They've got to start rebuilding that infrastructure down there and have something they've talked about forever. And they did for a little while, kind of post 2008, and having. Permanent rural organizers around the state. They had that going for a little bit, but it just it fell apart as the national Democrats decided Missouri wasn't a swing state anymore and quit investing in it. And so you have the other story that happened in the last couple months is Carol, the waitress in the diner down in Kennett, Missouri, who was abducted by ICE and disappeared for a few months, and. The whole town was up in arms. They had T-shirts. They had a big campaign. Sheryl Crow came back to town and got a T-shirt and was standing for Carol. That's another. I'm not going to say that those two moments can completely flip the politics of those two counties or those two towns on their head. But some of those people are going to be radicalized against.
Who did it?
And what's happening there? It's like, well, we didn't vote for this. It's like, well, yeah, there's some people on the people on the left are really condescending about people who say that sort of thing. But it's like, this is the time we got to welcome them in. It's like, yeah, we're sorry you didn't realize this might be an outcome, but. We've got to stand up to this. Will you join us in this fight to stop this from happening? And the only way we can do
instead of going, hey, dumb shit, told you, it could be like, you know what? Feel your pain. Here's what we're going to do about it.
Exactly. And so there's been, coming from a rural area and someone who used to be pretty right-wing and has come a long way to the left, and knowing that that's possible for a lot of people, We just got to be the kind of party that's actually like fun to be around. Instead, we're all about these little rules and watching out. We've got to be a little more tolerant and allow some folks who might not check off a majority of our litmus test questions, but are with us on some key important ones. Because at the end of the day, I don't believe that politics is on a linear scale between degrees left and degrees right and center and that sort of thing. I believe there's a set of priorities that voters vote for.
Well,
when a party lines up with their top 2 or 3 priorities, they're going to vote for those.
Look, I'll give you case in point from the 2024 election, and this is where the DNC just completely they were blinded by their ignorance. Roe v. Wade. Mm-hmm. They talked. They assumed. I read the press releases. I saw all the strategy coming through the pipe. And like, here's what we're going to communicate. Here's what we're going to communicate. We're going to get 99% of all women, right, because of Roe. And there was this.
I don't know about that, but
no, but you know exactly where I'm going with this. They thought the simplicity of women's health and Roe and all that was going to solidify this core of voters, i.e. suburban women in particular, simply because they were women. Mm-hmm. And there were plenty of women that were like, I don't like this, right? I don't like this infringement. I want freedom, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But what they completely ignored was, to your point, how does it affect me? How does it really affect me? Mm-hmm. And there was a huge population of women that were beyond birthing years, that more importantly had young white men as sons. And they were hearing the language coming out of MAGA that was talking to that person. Mm-hmm. And we all have moms, right?
Sure.
What do they care most about in this world? It's not themselves. It's not the groceries. It's not their job. It's not their neighbor. It's their kids, mm-hmm. right? And it was that kind of aha moment in talking to some suburban soccer moms that I know, where they were like, I voted for my son or my boys or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, shit. That's there was.
So you're saying like, oh, because my son agrees with this MAGA stuff, I'm going to vote for.
MAGA was saying that middle-class white male doesn't have opportunity, is getting less opportunity because of X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, so much of the narrative was false narrative, sure. Was projection, and to a degree lies. Yeah. But statistics don't lie. You can see the downward trend for lower middle income, white families, men in particular, that were getting fewer and fewer college degrees, and the median income was dropping, and all these things, right? Mm-hmm. MAGA understood that, right? And then that's where they were going. That's why they went on all the podcasts. That's why they did the bro tours. Mm-hmm. That's why they leaned into MMA. Yeah. All these things that gave them access right. to a market that historically, in towns like where you grew up and where I grew up, Granite City, right? Steel town. Mm-hmm. Blue collar, traditionally Democratic steel town. Mm-hmm. MAGA spoke to them. Yeah. Now they vote red. Anyway, point being, like, sometimes this simplicity of messaging isn't simple, and they don't ask questions. Mm-hmm. That's what I think is the biggest difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party today. Democratic Party continues to lecture. The Republican Party...
trying to tell you how to feel.
That's it.
It's like, the economy's doing fine. Look at all these numbers. It's like, well, the perception is not there. It's like, you wanted to switch to city politics. Well, crime is going down. Well, it doesn't feel like it's going down. I can still see a Facebook video of kids shooting fireworks off downtown.
Well, so I wanted to... I'm glad. That's a great transition. I wanted to get your take, because you're a city guy. 4th of July, this all plays out. We have this new state control of police department. There's the citizen board, all these things going on. And the police department's official social media pages started rolling out on the 4th just images and highlights and statistics and numbers of people that they are arresting or detaining specifically the kids, detaining them until the parents come, and then the parents are cited. I was amazed at the number of people that are not city people that were aware of this, that were excited by this, that were like, finally.
Yeah.
It was like this huge sigh of relief just because it looked like something was being done.
Yeah.
And to a degree, from a PR standpoint, 100% agree.
Yeah.
Me personally.
Uh-huh.
You've got your finger on the pulse down here. You're highly engaged.
I'm new to town, but I'm getting back into it.
You
getting back into Missouri politics and wading into St. Louis politics, which I never really was into before.
But you're aware, because I see you chasing down Elliot Davis and others.
God, I gotta unfollow his page.
When you saw all that going down, knee-jerk gut reaction, how'd you feel about it?
On the one hand, something that's more annoying on my end of the city is the dirt bike kids, the four-wheeler kids. I just saw them yesterday, 20 of them taking up both lanes on Germania, driving down. It's just annoying as hell. They're loud. They've been, my wife does Carondelet 3 times a week yoga 3 times a week at Carondelet Park, and several times when those guys are out, they just circle around, those women out there, and just, buzzing them. It's just super annoying as they're trying to have a relaxing, peaceful yoga session out there.
Yeah.
And the dirt bikes come around. It's annoying to see that sort of thing. At the same time, I'm more on the progressive side of law enforcement, things like that. We need to do a lot, but it's going to take both for a little while to kind of get things back to where the money that you put in crime prevention catches up with that, and to not overly penalize people for misdemeanor offenses. You can.
Well, I mean, there's this is the chicken or the egg, right? Car registrations, temp tags.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything in this world that boils my blood more than seeing a car in the city here driving down Compton.
Except for the system that they put in place to fix
that. The system is stupid, but it is the system.
Yeah.
And whenever I see a temp tag that is a year, 2 years, I mean, I've seen 3-4 years old.
Sure.
And rolling around, completely busted up. At some point, it's not that car and that scenario is this massive threat to me. It is a brand identity that is becoming St. Louis, or has become St. Louis.
Well, I mean, I would go to, what kind of macroeconomic forces are at play that lead us to do this? And it's like, we don't see it every day, but the millionaires and billionaires are not paying their taxes either.
No, I understand.
And they owe a hell of a lot more in taxes than the few $100 it's going to take to pay taxes on that used car and get some tags on there. But what I really hate is the system that have you bought a car recently in the last 3 or 4 years?
Oh, yes. I mean, that's why I cut myself.
Yeah.
Often. No.
Okay. It wasn't that bad, but,
oh, wait, no. Yeah. Sorry. Wrong car.
Yeah. There's the new $500 fee that these dealerships are collecting. That's basically just a money grab that the state legislature, the Republicans of the state legislature, Mike Kehoe, former car dealer, who just appointed another car dealer to the St. Louis Police Board, they gave this $500 gimme money to it's supposed to be funding the new system so that car dealers can collect the sales tax at the point of sale. So we don't have this issue anymore. But only 10% of that $500 fee goes to the state to implement this system. What does the other $450 go? It's supposed to be so the dealer can save up and invest in their own computer systems and make sure that they link up with the state and everything like that. But it's like it's just a giveaway to the car dealers.
Well, I mean, this is the catch-22. Yeah. Here in Missouri, I mean, there's a lot of talk from Nick Schroer and all those other tools out west. Regarding eliminating personal property tax. They've already eliminated Missouri state capital gains tax. And all these things on face value seem to make sense from a system standpoint.
Yeah.
To your point, if I go to Sunset Ford and I want to buy a new, Escape, I don't give a shit what it is.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that I have to. There are 3 different transactions for me to not only purchase the car, but to pay the taxes for the car and to get license plates for the car. This should be a singular one-stop shop.
Sure.
And then, let's say I buy it in June. 6 months later, here come the bills in the mail. I get to pay personal property tax on it. And I get at the other end of that rainbow is the things that it's supposed to be paying for. And in Missouri, the vast majority of our public goods, be it infrastructure, education, parks, etc., are underfunded. Right? So that's the dichotomy. That's the issue. But the process is stupid. And the Republicans get to hide behind, forget about, they're going to be fiscally irresponsible and just cut the revenue, knowing that these programs are going to be underfunded to the point of defunded. But it doesn't matter because they made my tax process easier.
Yeah.
So
I know supposedly this is work. This is supposed to be leading up to the system to where we can do a lot of that at the dealerships, but it's not coming. In the meanwhile, every car dealer in the state's pulling in an extra $500 per sale because of this cash grab that they've allowed them to do. They could be charging as little as $200, but I didn't find a dealer when I was buying a car a couple years ago who wasn't going to charge the full $500.
I do tend to agree with the fundamental principle of where you started to defend the individuals from a progressive standpoint, in so much that what is it, Aristotle, right? Poverty is the mother of all crime, right? It comes down to money.
Okay.
Here's where I'm going with this. The expired plates, all this other shit, or kids running around on, the scooters or the 4-wheelers or whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, mind you, those aren't cheap.
Yeah.
Right? Those cost money. When you do incarcerate, or even short-term hold or whatever, and there's a citation or whatever, if there's a financial transaction associated with getting in trouble for a group of people that are already financially in trouble, I see the flywheel
snowballs into
However,
what eventually becomes, a series of misdemeanors turns into a felony at some point.
Right, but also taking away, like Illinois is, the whole FAFO, right? Eliminating cash bond or bail or whatever it is. Bad idea, because now, the statistics again during the last election cycle, everybody's like, well, look at the numbers, crime, the economy's great. Well, no, it doesn't feel that way. Well, Illinois is now finding out that when you do let people go and there's no financial incentive to keep them either obeying the rules or the terms of their own situation, they're going to do it again and again and again, because there's it's like that parent sitting in the restaurant saying, put your device down, put your device down, put your device down, and they never do anything.
I mean,
the kid is never going to put the fucking
studies
device
I've seen
down.
on getting rid of cash bail show that people still show up in about the same rates as they did before cash bail. But
totally understand that. But
you
you
have to look at what's happening in Illinois.
But Illinois umbrellaed everybody from violent offenders, to parking meter violations, right? You can't look at everybody in the same light because there's motive.
Yeah, you definitely have to separate violent offenders from non-violent offenders.
Which is why I think what is happening here in St. Louis, I think they're understanding that.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing. Look, you want to help people out. You want to find a more efficient way to pay bills or property tax bills, or you registering your plates. Fine, let's get creative.
And I think the situation in St. Louis would be, there's an internal factor and an external factor at play here that came together for a perfect storm of crime the last few years. In that the pandemic happened and crime spiked everywhere across the board. Rural America, suburban America, urban America. That happened. It comes from the economy just being bonkers and getting back to poverty. The second is we had a prosecutor who just quit doing the job.
Yeah, she was awful.
And so had we had a competent prosecutor who was even, toward the progressive end of things in how they, prosecute crime, then I think you would have seen a little bit of a difference there too. For sure.
Yeah, but don't you think, maybe the better mix of ingredients in this bouillabaisse of bullshit would be,
Is that the new BBB?
Yeah, I just actually made that up on the fly.
Yeah.
Sounded
There
pretty
you go.
good, though.
Yeah, there you go.
Bouillabaisse of bullshit. That's not too bad. Anyway, I don't like the idea of having, as much as I'd like to be progressive in, from the standpoint of new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see progress from a, quote, progressive viewpoint.
Sure.
I don't necessarily, I'm not in teen camp AOC, progressive Democrat, defining it. But when I look at the relationship between a city hall and a board of aldermen, and then the judicial, the police department, and then the courts,
Yeah.
I actually want to see ideological variances there, because I do think that the judicial system should not be responsible for interpreting, is this fair or is this not fair? Mm-hmm. Interpret the law. It's black and white. If you do this, this happens, right? That's not your job.
Yeah.
I put the onus on City Hall and the Board of Aldermen. This is where progressivism should be way more focused, not on the criminal justice side. Why don't you fucking get off your hands and figure out how to create jobs, create, better schools, do the things that you and I both know.
Yeah.
When those things are fixed,
Yeah.
well, then the pathway to crime it becomes much more convoluted and less desirable.
Yeah.
So it's this cop out. It's like you, Mr. Mrs. Leaders of a region, you failed on the policy side, which led to the crime that we're seeing, and now you're going to blame the cops for your policy failures? No, that's not how this works.
Sure. I mean, there's always going to be a gap between theory and practice, no matter where you are. And like I mentioned earlier, it's going to take a both-hand approach for a period of time until you have those virtuous cycles happening where the education system gets better, so people move back and they move jobs here and that sort of thing, and property values go up, so the school funding goes up and gets better and continues to be in a virtuous cycle that way. Whereas then we're in the vicious cycle where people are moving away, tax base is going down, jobs are moving away, that sort of thing, where we're going in the wrong direction.
So don't you think a big part of the problem here is also the utilization or the verbiage, so to speak, of how progressive Democrats in particular talk to the general public? Case in point, defund the police. The two that jump out at me is that one, and then this last pass with the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the strategic decision to just utilize abortion, the word abortion, over and over again, as opposed to pro-choice. When you look back at these kind of macro strategies from the progressive left side of the Democratic Party, it appears to me, just sniffing out on the streets in suburban Webster Groves, that was a failure.
Kind of getting back to defund the police. There's a lot to chew on there with what you just said. So defund the police. I think a lot of people took that to mean zero out the budget, which I don't think that's. You could maybe interpret it that way, but can you chant a nuanced policy prescription in the streets? No. But that's about as close as you can do.
Well, I know, but to that point, you're kind of
Yeah.
making the point for me.
But I'll just say, going back to my history, like I've been in favor of demilitarizing the police, getting rid of civil asset forfeiture, getting and holding police accountable, because I know my dad's a defense attorney, so I've heard stories of crooked, lying cops going back since I was a kid. It happens everywhere, and I've just, that's the side I've always been on, to be skeptical.
Well, but wouldn't it have been easier, better, probably more effective, is hypothetically speaking here, instead of coming up with a slogan that immediately pisses off a whole bunch of people, why not look at legislation or policy in which when you have a wrongful death settlement, $1 million, $2 million, whatever the number is, obviously it's all over the board. Instead of it being paid out by the municipality, take it out of the police pension or an insurance policy that is directly paid for by the,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I think there's so many more creative ways to have held, both sides' feet to the fire in order to actually move policy.
Yeah.
Because just going out with a slogan like defund the police, and to your point,
Yeah.
even though you and I both know that it didn't mean let's net these things out to zero.
Yeah.
It meant let's shift some funding around. Let's
Yeah.
maybe invest in other
And so
things.
and Democrats just ran away from that. They ran away, just like in the lead up to the Iraq War. It's like, oh well, we can't. It's like you're against the war. Do you hate the troops? Oh, we got to run away from that too. It's just the Democrats come from a place of cowardice, and something kind of getting back to Zoran in New York is something he's actually someone standing up and fighting for these things. And he's a democratic socialist, yes. And people said, well, if you nominate Bernie, they're gonna. We're not going to nominate a socialist. Well, you're going to nominate Biden, and they're going to call him a socialist. Well, now the people of New York have nominated a socialist, and the next day Trump calls him a communist. So they're always going to go to the next extreme word they can think of.
Oh yeah, no, I understand.
And try to paint our policy positions as the most extreme, out of touch thing that they can think of. But it comes back. It's incumbent on us not to run away from that and agree with their premise, but to come back and present the policies that we believe in and the future that we want to see.
Yeah, you know what? I actually went down the rabbit hole that is the exact opposite of the strategy that I believe the Democrats should take, talking about the minutia. Not that these things are little issues, but
It's tough.
But
because
we have
love
not
to talk about the minutia.
But yeah, God,
Just who we are.
Damn,
That's who we are.
Let's talk about housing. Well, that's boring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that wins elections.
This housing policy didn't take your job. This immigrant did. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's exactly it. It's this thing. Wages, houses, and education. Period. Those three things.
Yeah.
Because typically, if those things are going well, you don't really need to worry about inflation for the most part, because the economy is working in harmony, and I think that's the reality of since Obama and the Federal Reserve under Obama, and coming out of the 2008 financial crisis. Trump's economy was just the coattails of everything that had already been built and being built, and the synergy from pretty poor fiscal policy during Obama's term that accelerated our debt significantly, the deficit, didn't really address even the ACA, as much as the expanded coverage, it still was a Republican light healthcare plan,
Right.
And universal health care.
Lighter and lighter every day.
and that's the one area where I'm like, if somebody wants to, because I love when people take pot shots at me, like, you're a socialist, whatever. Oh my God, no, I pay a lot in taxes and et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to healthcare, yep, zero this shit out. Let's figure it out. Democrats don't do that. They because the Democratic Party is equally culpable for where we are. Look at what Elon's doing on X, the new third party, American Party, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I haven't really followed that so much. It's like he tweeted something. Has he actually followed with actions? I don't know.
Well, I mean, whenever the guy's got $400 billion at his disposal and that platform, it's a matter of time. I think people dismissed Trump in 2015 and learned to regret it. I think we are continually seeing that won't happen, and it's happening. And I think the fact that if Elon Musk is willing to take on Trump and the full weight and force of our federal government,
I don't think he's in over his head. I don't think he's knows what he's getting into. Kind of like what he did with Twitter, and how he screwed up Twitter.
I mean, we have a reality TV star serving his second term as president.
Right. I'm not going to rule anything out, but just like the fact that political parties are not just at the national level, but they come up from a series of, and some of this is in state laws. It's a series of committees that's decentralized and federalized there's the state party, there's county parties, there's
Yeah, no, I understand all that,
there's
but
office holders, the township and ward.
But wouldn't you say
office
that?
holders.
But the reality of politics and the geographical hooks that most people are subject to, as far as your district and what you can and can't vote for, et cetera. At the end of the day, when it comes to your the federal seats, presidency in particular, as long as you have a cell phone, smartphone, and any one of the 5 social media apps, you are a national body politic. You are going to gravitate towards the entertainment platform that fits your needs, hates, wants, etc.
Yeah, I'd say I agree. You have a degree of influence. I don't know how that translates into building an actual party infrastructure. It's going to take a lot more than $400 billion.
Would you say that there was a massive Republican Party infrastructure in the city of New York City?
Relative to other places, I mean, yeah, it could be bigger than than some other places. Around.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
like I remember reading the article. I can't remember who published it, but it was basically like the actual amount of money that was spent there, on a percentage basis,
Right.
was woefully low, and it saw an extremely high swing right, relevant or correspondingly to the amount that was invested.
Sure.
And the theory was that it's because of how and where people are consuming their media, specifically their political news.
Yeah, it's definitely completely decentralized and more affordable than ever to individually advertise on any of these platforms because no one has all of the eyeballs anymore. It's not 3 TV stations anymore and 2 local newspapers or whatever. But there's, 3 dozen platforms that you got to put your money into.
So now that you're dipping your toe back into the waters of poking bears and jousting with the Elliot Davises of the world,
It's not just all on Facebook, folks. Doing real political stuff too.
what's next steps? What are you looking to do?
Well, looking at the 26 cycle at this point, I've been working with a firm here, and we were doing some stuff in the November election, then the March and April, and this last the special election here in the 8th ward that just wrapped up last week. So, the next thing's coming up, unless some special elections coming up, like if there's a vacant House seat in South County that's just sitting there waiting for the governor to call a special election. There may be some appointments coming up that might open up some other seats in the city and county. So kind of looking to see if some specials come along before November of 26. But yeah, just looking at the getting some people into races and from whatever level they want to be at. So
How much interest are you seeing here in Missouri as far as individuals that are willing to put their name on a ticket and or those that are willing to frankly fund the ticket? Because nationally speaking, the DNC, it ignores Missouri.
Sure. And it depends on the level. I think we're not, the group I'm working with, we're not necessarily looking to go to the statewide level at this point, but we are looking at congressional and state senate, state rep seats on both sides of the river. So at that level, there's a lot of money locally. There's a lot of money in the state for the fight in certain districts, especially. And I've had a lot of experience working with first-time candidates and building out their political fundraising Rolodex from scratch. And so you've got a lot more money in your personal contacts than you realize. If you've been just a run-of-the-mill professional person and kind of been engaged in the community for a while, you have a lot of contacts. You can raise a decent amount of money to give it a fight, but it gets more and more expensive every cycle, and it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Who's going to run against Hawley?
Well, I mean, that's 5 years away now, right?
Well, let me throw out a scenario. It's kind of similar to my Colin Aldred
comparison.
Does Jess Piper win statewide?
No.
Why?
She she raised $250,000 being a meme account running for state rep in rural Missouri and got 24% of the vote
In rural Missouri.
in rural Missouri.
But give her St. Louis City, Columbia, and Kansas City.
If she's running in a Democratic district,
See, I think that's part
no,
of the
she did maybe 3% better than the people who had zero money who ran before her. I looked into this a couple years ago. It was just a marginal difference.
Yeah, but
She had
she's in
best
the
funded
she's
state
in the
rep seat.
polar opposite corner of the boot heel, in which you can count the number of Democrats that live in the district, on two hands and a couple of toes. She increased and she's running at a time in which you're in the middle of MAGA, so the overall national trend is going right anyway, and yet in a state that is going even more right, she moved a district a few points left, so
Talking about a couple dozen votes.
it again, she had, it's like trying to make soup where you're in a quarry, you got no spices, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing, the best thing that Democrats can do to help the party is to turn off cable news in general. MSNBC, CNN, they are not policy prescriptions. They don't do policy, they do controversy. And they don't do politics either. They do.
Well, let me play
the
devil's advocate, because
controversy of the day.
isn't that exactly how the Republican Party has garnered so much power that they have nationally and at the state level?
Yeah, it's like
Because what was
Democrats
their policy
don't like
platform?
to think that they're susceptible to fake news and stuff like that, but you have these meme pages like the other 98% and stuff like that post fake stuff all the time, and they go viral. And it's just ridiculous. You have to step away from the outrage machines and take a pulse of the district or the state that you're running in and figure out if it's, is this actually a hairs on fire emergency that needs a full-throated, direct the camera, doing a little rant in my car sort of video, or a pithy meme or something like that. Do you need to get out in front of that thing? It's like, well, the algorithm will reward you for doing that sort of stuff. They like the outrage. But the voters will not reward you for that. And they did not reward Jess Piper for that, despite her overwhelming fundraising advantage, which usually dictates.
I think our Venn diagram is pretty close, but in this area, I think I'll disagree, because I'm looking at it from a standpoint of just social media content in general. Jess Piper has done a better job of building a social media foundation than any other Democrat in the state of Missouri, by far. Numbers don't lie. You add up her TikTok, her Insta, everything else. She's kicking the shit out of everybody.
Okay, well, does that get votes? Do we have more seats?
I mean, that's exactly how Trump won.
Are our statewide margins any closer than they were before she got into this thing?
Again, until the Democratic Party starts to look and think outside of the box, because the box that they've been playing in is not winning.
This: the foundation that she's built.
And to be clear, I'm not advocating for her. I'm using her as an example of, going back to the 24 fall election and all the powers that be that were so freaking smart. They were all the ones that told Vice President Harris, "Don't go on Rogan.
Yeah.
Don't." That's stupid.
Oh yeah,
that is absolutely stupid.
That's different from running a meme count, or like basically she's running a fundraising operation, which works for getting your base organized and excited and getting some money together on that. So like, could she win in St. Louis City or a very reliably blue district in St. Louis County or Kansas City? Probably she could win an office, but it's Democrats on Democrats at that point. That's the kind of thing she's built up. And you see these, like, how many times have you had to unsubscribe from some random PAC or organization that's texting you or emailing you or that sort of thing?
No, I get it.
There's so many grift PACs out there, and I think she's Missouri's version of it at the end of the day.
Well, the quote capable, competent, eligible candidates over the past 12 years that have run for these seats, they've all lost pretty bad, actually.
Yeah.
So back to my original point here, it's not working. So at some point, if it's a throwaway state, if the DNC is saying you're a throwaway state, at some point we need to throw a Hail Mary.
Yeah. It's like, and this is, I mean, she puts out a lot of content, but this is one thing in particular, and to demonstrate how that's not going to work. Stone, I think it's Stone County, Branson, that county, deep red, voted for the $15 minimum wage because it's full of service industry people, right?
Yeah, they got 12 Walmarts.
And right after the election, there was some local government, I don't know if it's school board or city council or something, did something, abhorrent related to a darling issue of the left. And so she's calling out that all Democrats should boycott Branson until, this person changes their mind. It's
Again, I'm not.
Branson is fertile ground to organizing on economic populist issues because that deep red county voted for a $15 minimum wage.
Yeah.
Why are we writing off Branson all of a sudden?
Well, the vast majority of the state voted for the minimum wage and the paid leave and weed and abortion access and all that. But at the end of the day, that top of the ticket when it comes to the ideological seats, i.e. the presidency and the Senate seats, it becomes much more of just simply a red or blue, and there needs to be some connectivity there. And I think what's happening is the messaging from the left in the state of Missouri is it's really just not listening to the people, and vote counts don't lie, and until somebody comes out and says, you know what, let's throw water on this chalkboard, let's sponge it down and start all over. Yeah. I don't know what the message is going to be. And more importantly, it's not even the message as much as it needs to be, only as long as it's simple and in acronyms, preferably. It's who is the face?
Well, it's coming back to what I said, throughout this conversation, is not being condescending toward people who live outside of cities and suburbs and who maybe disagree with you on 5 out of 10 issues or whatever it is. There's got to be a little leeway to find some common ground with those folks. And I posted about this on Facebook a couple months ago and got a lot of pushback. And it's just like, well, I don't want to find common ground with the KKK. And I'm like, I'm not saying find common ground with the KKK. There's some people we can't reach, okay? Or the Proud Boys or whatever right-wing military group you want to name. But you've got your average person who's in a right-wing area and who's voting right-wing because it's the vibe, it's the culture of their area. How do we actually break through to them to talk about those issues? And it's not being condescending toward them or boycotting them because of what one extreme official in their county said.
Yeah, put real money in their pocket and services on the
Exactly.
table,
Yeah.
and you win.
Yeah, exactly.
And
make sure they know, and don't be modest about it either. Biden wouldn't put his name on the checks that he sent out to people. I had people coming up to me. I was doing some ballot initiative stuff, and people were coming up, and it's like, who sent you a check? It was Trump. Trump sent you a check. I'm like, well, Biden sent you a check too, didn't he? Well, Trump's check had his name on it. Biden didn't do shit for me. It's like, well, no, he did. He's done a lot for you. It's just the Democrats won't put their name on it because they got to be above this partisanship and stuff like that. It's like, no, if you want to win, you got to let people know. They failed. It's like, oh, well, the policy's been passed. People will know in time, like with the ACA or
Stephen A.
like
Smith wouldn't do that.
No, he's got some good ideas. I like what he's been saying.
He's a perfect example of, at this point, why not?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I do believe in, I'm a little leery right now, but I do believe in the foundational strength of our institutions, that I believe there are way more safety nets than a lot of the, the skies on fire people from the left are screaming right now. I don't think it's on fire. I think somebody's trying to light a match, right? Mm-hmm. They are scraping that box hard to try and toss that thing onto what we call society. And so far, it's being blown out. But there needs to be a better messenger that dumbs it all down, and just like, look, this is poor versus not. and let's close that gap. If you close that gap, through any multitude of areas, people will listen. Because right now, the angst is because they're hurting in a lot of other areas.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
One way I try to connect with people that's out of the box is through music. I'm going to change the subject again.
There you go. Pop it off. Yeah, go ahead.
Last week, July 4th, I did. There was an organization that brought together some musicians to kind of follow up on the No Kings March, and we played at Greenfinch, and the 4th and the 5th, and so that was really positive. I did some of my original political songs and broke out a few that I hadn't done in a while. Some old Southern Tenant Farmers Union material. And
You got any gigs coming up?
I do. I got, when does this come out?
Early next week.
Early next week. Okay. 17th and the 19th.
We'll be out by then.
Yeah, Thursday the 17th. I'm over at Benny's Pizza Pub in Belleville, Illinois from 6 to 9.
Bell Vegas.
Oh, yeah. And then the 19th, I've been, Zumi's Pet Cafe on Mackland has been doing some Saturday afternoon music from noon to 2. And so that's been real fun. Lots of dogs around. And I think the one coming up, it's ice cream weekend coming up here. So they've got some local ice cream sponsors that'll be there all weekend. So you got to come get some ice cream. They had Urban Chestnut there last month when I was there, so I got some free beer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there a beer edition of this?
Yeah, well, it's last month.
I'm lactose. No, I can eat and drink it all.
So yeah.
No, man, I appreciate you coming in and doing this, having the conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things. Missouri is quite the anomaly. A bellwether forever, and then it just spiraled out.
Yeah.
Largely, I think it was. Look, I'll just say it. I think it's self-inflicted wounds. I think the Democratic Party in Missouri, maybe really nationally, but Missouri in particular, it wasn't listening. Wasn't really paying attention.
Yeah.
Because the institutional individuals on the consulting side and those that were kind of on the inside track
Oh yeah.
were insulated from the reality.
Oh, absolutely.
And growing up again.
I never got a lot of respect being from Poplar Bluff and trying to make it in Democratic politics in Missouri. It was real interesting.
If they do not change that, then so be it. And I don't think this is just unique from the standpoint of milquetoast, middle of the road, find another, Jay Nixon or whoever. Well, whoever. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because when you go to the far left, that is almost like you're not listening either. Mm-hmm. The Cory Bushes of the world, the Tashars, et cetera, that are like, living on a platform of goodwill and checking boxes. Well, you're not listening either.
And like I said, it doesn't need to be, again, getting away from the linear definition of politics, because back to 2016 election, when we had the last time we had a Democrat get close to winning statewide, you had Jason Kander, who was coming at it from the progressive side of things. Then you had Chris Costa running for governor, former Republican, running as, I was at one of his fundraisers and he said, he held up Ashcroft and Bond as model Republicans to be a statesman like them is kind of a model that he held up for himself. And I'm just like, you're in a room full of Democrats, bud. Can we just stick with Mel Carnahan or something like that?
Yeah.
And go for that sort of thing and not have to, we don't have to trot out those guys. Come on.
Well, I mean, to tell you the truth, the reality is we've fallen so far. I would take Reagan. Like in today's environment.
The election night bargaining I did in 16 and 24. It's like, would 8 years of McCain and Romney been better than this? Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, this is Don Jr. says it all the time when he goes on and spews his mouth. He goes, "Look, America made us do this. We would have been out of here by now." God. And to a degree, he's not wrong. But anyway, alas, here we are. Truman Kennedy Go check them out on Spotify. Go listen to the tunes.
Werewolf Mask is the name of the album.
You got merch too. You brought in.
I got a vinyl record. I got T-shirts. Those are available on Bandcamp. You can order them there, or find me out at a show. I've got a full band. The dates I mentioned earlier were solo dates. Working on some more full band dates for this fall. So, social media, I think I'm Truman Kennedy Music across the board. www.trumankennedy.com is the website. But yeah, merch on Bandcamp plus digital downloads as well are there.
I could tell, just kind of reading people here.
Mm-hmm.
When you started talking about the music and everything else, the tone of your voice went up about a half octave.
Well, we've been doing politics for a while.
I know it's pretty depressing. I don't want to talk about it.
I really wanted to change the subject.
No, man, I appreciate you coming in. Honestly, we'll have you back. I'd love to do maybe. I've got some. I got some righties that are friends of mine. I would love to do a little round table and chop it up. And
Cool.
We'll bring Kyle in too.
Yeah.
I like he's a little pocket rocket. He's got little insights that are golden nuggets as well.
Realized last year that we were, or about 2 years ago, I guess we're almost neighbors down there in South City, and we got to.
Oh yeah, he's Southside too.
Yeah. So.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for joining me. Tell me you're joking. Like, review, follow, share. Appreciate you guys listening. Gonna roll out with a little. Last little bit of Capri Sun and Gin that is a trademark song, by the way. In spite
Don't
of
tell Capri Sun.
Yeah, well, they do still make them. I talked about that down at
Sometimes I throw them out at my shows, so you might get a free Capri Sun if you come out to a show.
I love it. Truman Kennedy, thanks for joining, man. And until next time, tell me you're joking. We'll see you, people.
Capri Sun with gin, Capri Sun and gin.